This STH room you can't STP it always begins with the stillness. Not the gentle kind, the kind that follows sleep, wraps you in warmth. No, this is a stillness that feels like being held down, like something is waiting for you to notice. You open your eyes, your body doesn't follow, you're paralyzed. You try to scream, but the sound doesn't pass your throat. Your mind is fully awake, thrashing against a body that refuses to move. And in the corner of your vision, something shifts. It's there, watching. But I remember the first time it happened to me. I was 13. I'd fallen asleep on the couch, facing the hallway. At some point in the night, I awoke but couldn't move. The hallway light flickered, and then I saw it, a figure, blacker than the dark around it, standing motionless in the frame between the kitchen and the hall. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It didn't blink, but I knew it saw me, and then it stepped closer. Sleep paralysis is supposed to be explained. A chemical hiccup in your brain, your REM cycle disrupted. Your body trapped in the state it enters to keep you from acting out your dreams. Science says it's normal, that what you see isn't real. But tell that to the woman who saw her dead husband standing at the foot of her bed every night for a year. Tell that to the boy who wakes up screaming after seeing something crawl across the ceiling and whisper his name. Tell that to me, because I've kept records, hundreds of them. And what I've learned is that people around the world who've never met, never spoken, describe the exact same beings, the same voices, the same shadows, and sometimes the same message. They call it the Shadow Man, or the Hat Man, or the Watcher. Some say it's a hallucination. Others think it's something older. But I've read the logs. I've seen the footage. There's something here, and it doesn't care that you think you're safe. Because once you wake up, and you still can't move, and you realize the thing in your room isn't leaving, you'll understand what I mean. Some nightmares don't end when you wake up. They begin. Part 1. The science isn't COM for TNG. They say it's just your brain, a misfire, a harmless disruption between REM sleep and consciousness, a glitch in the code, a trick of chemicals. But no explanation makes it less terrifying, because when you wake up, your eyes wide, your heart pounding, and your body won't move. No word like neurotransmitter makes it feel okay, especially when something's breathing over you. Science calls it REM atonia, your brain's way of keeping you from acting out dreams. During REM sleep, your muscles shut down, but sometimes you wake up before your body does. That's where the paralysis begins. But here's the problem. Thousands of people don't just report stillness, they report visitors. Across cultures, languages, and centuries, the reports repeat. A figure stood in the doorway. Something sat on my chest. I couldn't breathe. It had red eyes. It knew my name. The details vary, but the structure is the same. And these aren't random people. They're nurses, firefighters, soldiers, scientists, people who have no reason to lie. They all say the same thing. It wasn't a dream. Case study: Clara, 27, California. She'd experienced sleep paralysis once before in college, briefly. But this time was different. She woke up, unable to move. There was a shape standing near her dresser, not quite human, not quite shadow. It whispered, "Clara." And then it reached down and touched her face. The next morning, her cheek had a faint, hand-shaped mark, cold to the touch. It's not new. In Japan, it's called Kana, SHIBAR. In Brazil, Paralysia do sono in Newfoundland. Old hag syndrome. In every language, it translates to this: something that sits on your chest while you sleep. And in almost every story, it watches. If sleep paralysis were just a random malfunction, why are the figures always similar? Why do people around the world describe the same tall, shadowy, man-faceless, woman-crawling thing with too many joint-choking, deer? Creaking open slowly patterns mean something. Patterns mean this isn't random. When you wake up, and it doesn't stop. Some report that even after movement returns, the figure stays. They sit up, turn on the light, and the shadow is still there. One woman reported seeing it vanish into the wall. Another saw it slowly step backward into her mirror. Many who experience severe cases remember more being dragged, being shown images, hearing words that don't make sense until later, seeing the same figure again and again. Some have dreams of waking up before the paralysis, as if the event was waiting. Some report premonitions, some don't sleep at all anymore. Part 2. The Via-City arrest. The first time you see it, you think it's a shadow. But shadows don't watch you, they don't breathe. They don't lean closer when your eyes are wide open. You're paralyzed, your limbs are frozen. The weight on your chest is unbearable, and something is standing in the room. It doesn't need to move to make itself known, it just is. Watching, waiting. Of all the forms reported during sleep paralysis, 3 emerge with haunting regularity. 1. The shadow man, tall, featureless, often wearing a wide-brimmed hat, appears near doors, windows, or at the foot of the bed. His presence brings dread, but rarely direct harm. Still, you'll never forget his outline. To the old woman, also known as the hag, described as hunched, wrinkled, with eyes like sinking pits, sits on the chest, whispers things that leave no sound, but linger in the soul. Some wake up choking, others wake up screaming with her still burned into their mind. 3. The crawling thing, small, inhuman, moves across ceilings, or out from beneath beds, often the last thing you see before blacking out. Many describe the sound it makes: wit, broken joints, and laughter that sounds too human. The man who saw all 3 Darius, age 42, Toronto, had sleep paralysis for years, kept a journal, saw them all. First came the shadow, 2 months later, the hag, then. In a single night, he saw them together. The crawling thing came first, then the hag crouched beside him, then the shadow stepped into the room. The moment he closed his eyes, he heard them whisper, "You're finally ready." He moved out of his apartment, never slept in that bedroom again. The thing in the mirror. Jade, 19, Mexico City, woke up unable to move, saw nothing in the room until she looked toward the mirror. Her reflection was smiling, but she wasn't. Then it blinked slowly, then it stepped forward into the glass. The next morning, her mirror was cracked. No one else was home. Some people experience sleep paralysis once in their life. Others are visited again and again and again. Each time, the figure gets bolder. It stands closer. It speaks louder. It stays longer. It stays longer, until the line between sleep and waking starts to dissolve. A man named Owen reported seeing the shadow man every Wednesday. At 3:41 a.m., he moved to another city. It showed up again same day, same time. In 2014, a Reddit thread exploded with users posting about the man in the hallway. The disturbing part, many described the same figure. Even more disturbing, Some claimed to see it before they even knew about sleep paralysis. One woman said her brother drew it. At age 6, no face, just a wide-brimmed hat, long coat, and black lines for fingers. She had her first paralysis event at 2-3 and saw the exact same figure. They know you're awake there. Worst part isn't the paralysis. It's the moment you realize they know you're conscious. That flick of attention, that shift in posture, like a spider recognizing the fly is still struggling. A girl named Esme reported, "The second I realized it wasn't a dream, it turned its head, like it had been pretending not to see me, but it had been waiting the whole time." What they want, no one knows for sure. Some say it's curiosity. Some say it's feeding. Some say it's just proximity to something that exists in a different dimension. Others, they think it's an invitation, that each encounter weakens something inside you, like erosion, until one day it doesn't leave, and you don't wake up alone. Part 3. The ones who didn't wake. Most sleep paralysis victims suffer alone. They wake up, frozen, haunted, and left wondering if what they saw was real. But some are not the only ones in the room. Some are seen. Brandon, 34, Texas, woke up paralyzed at 2:46 a.m. Saw a black figure crouched on his chest, breathing, pulsing. Couldn't scream. His wife woke up next to him, saw him trembling. She turned and screamed. Why? Because she saw it too. A black figure on her husband's chest, looking directly at her. It vanished the moment she turned on the lamp. Brandon had bruises on his ribs. The next morning, home security footage rarely shows anything conclusive, but sometimes it captures what words can't. In 2018, a man in Warsaw installed a camera after experiencing nightly paralysis. He uploaded the footage to an obscure forum, long since deleted. What it showed at 3:11 a.m. The man's body goes rigid in bed. Tension builds then. A shape steps into frame slowly, like crawling fog. Not quite a person, not quite a shadow. It stands beside the bed, and for exactly 47 seconds doesn't move. Then it leans over him and disappears. When two people see the same thing. Maya and her sister shared a bedroom in childhood. Both began experiencing paralysis around the same time, ages 11 and 13. They thought it was stress, until one night, Maya awoke, paralyzed. She saw a woman standing in the corner, whispering in a language she couldn't understand. The next morning, her sister said, "Why was that woman in the corner singing last night?" They both drew what they saw. The drawings matched. Marks that shouldn't be there. Some people wake up with scratches, bruises, faint burns. Doctors blame unconscious movement, night thrashing, muscle spasms. But how do you explain handprints? Perfectly formed, left on the back where one cannot reach. A man in Brazil reported waking up after a night of paralysis with the word night scratched faintly into his thigh. He lived alone. The door was locked from the inside. The man in the hallway returns in 2021. A couple from Melbourne installed a baby monitor in their child's room after the wife experienced severe sleep paralysis episodes. The camera caught movement at 3:03 a.m. Not in the crib, but in the hallway. Tall silhouette, unmoving, standing in the doorway for 6 minutes. The wife reported being paralyzed that same night, seeing a figure standing by the crib. She couldn't scream when she finally could move. She ran to her child. The baby was unharmed, but the monitor's audio file, normally silent, had captured breathing, heavy, deliberate. rhythmic breathing. The case identical, twins Liam and Isaac, age 17, shared the same room. Isaac began reporting sleep, paralysis, and seeing a woman in white standing over Liam's bed. Liam never experienced anything until one night. Liam woke, paralyzed, and saw Isaac sitting upright, staring, mouth open, not blinking, and behind him, the woman. He tried to call out, but couldn't. The next morning, Isaac remembered nothing, but Liam had a nosebleed and finger-shaped bruises along his neck. They sleep in separate rooms now. Neither of them has slept through the nights since. Shared memories across team. A woman named Elena claimed she kept dreaming of a child crying under her bed during paralysis. Years later, her daughter, age 5, ran crying from her room in the middle of the night. When asked why, she whispered, "The boy under my bed said, I had your eyes. They moved, it followed." Some survivors say they finally escaped the paralysis. They sit up, breathe, turn on the light, but the figure is still there, smiling, waiting, and then they blink and wake up still paralyzed. Because sometimes you never actually woke up. Part 4. When the voice speaks, your unadmit begins with a whisper. Most people who experience sleep paralysis say the figure never speaks, but then some say it does. They hear it in their ears, or in the space behind their thoughts, or in their own voice, but twisted, and what it says first is always the same. Your name. Case file. Elias 36, Manusli's barn. He'd had sleep paralysis before. The crawling pressure, the shape near the closet. But one night, the shape leaned closer and whispered, "Elias." Not aloud, inside, he felt it coil around his name like a hand on his spine. When he awoke, his mouth tasted like metal, and he could still hear the voice. For a week, a woman named Ray reported hearing a whisper before paralysis began. She would be fully awake, cleaning, walking when a faint whisper of her name would echo from nowhere. Then, that night, she would be paralyzed. The voice was a warning, or a signal. She began sleeping during the day. The voice came anyway. In some cases, the voice says a name that isn't yours. But later, you hear that name again. A new co-worker, a child on a bus, a stranger in a headline. And when you do, your blood runs cold, because you remember where you heard it first, whispered in the dark, while your body wouldn't move, and something leaned closer. David, 25, reported that every time he experienced paralysis, the figure whispered the same name, Marcellus. He didn't know anyone with that name. He thought it was meaningless until he traveled to Rome in a cathedral basement. Carved into stone from the 1700s, he found it, Sanctus Marcellus. He left the city. The voice got louder, OME times. The name isn't said to you, it's said through you. A mother in Norway awoke from paralysis, finally able to move, only to find her husband pale and shaking beside her. He said, "You spoke, but it wasn't your voice." And it said a name 3 times, in a language I've never heard. The name stayed with him. He searched it, found nothing, until a year later when their child was born, and one of the nurses had that name on her tag. He said her face turned white when he told her. She quit the next day. Some victims report hearing words that don't make sense, but when recorded and played in reverse, they form names. One man used a sleep monitor and caught audio during a paralysis episode. A whisper Nahemsi, Rof Nimog. He played it backward, coming for his name. He stopped recording. 3 nights later, his brother experienced paralysis for the first time. There's no confirmed explanation. Some believe names are power, that to know someone's true name is to have access. Others believe the entities learn your name slowly, across each visitating it into themselves. And once they know it fully, they can call you in your sleep, not into dreams, but into their space. Part 5. The pattern is EXP and ENG. The reports never stopped. Thousands of people every year experience sleep paralysis, but something has changed. The figures are becoming more detailed, the voices more coherent, and the experiences more connected. Paralysis used to be an isolated terror. Now, people are sharing the same story. From Japan to Brazil, Norway to South Africa. A woman in Indonesia draws the exact same figure as a man in Ohio. Neither of them has ever met, and yet they describe it the same. A tall silhouette, a hat, a grin with no mouth, and the smell of static and copper. Across cultures, there's one detail most don't notice until someone connects the dots. The time. Most paralysis events happen between 2 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. In folklore, it's called the devil's hour. In neurology, it's a low point in the circadian rhythm. But what if that's when they are strongest? A digital sleep tracking app released anonymized data in 2022. A massive spike in disrupted REM events between 2:43 and 2:49 a.m. They called it an anomaly. They didn't explain it. A paranormal research group in Poland collected 200 artistic depictions from people who suffered from sleep paralysis. The results: over 80% drew a similar silhouette, wider shoulders than human. No facial details, always tall, often surrounded by fractured space like broken glass or bent walls. They titled the project The Unseen, drawn from memory, a 9th century Viking. Manuscript describes the Stride Walker, a dark figure that visits warriors in their sleep, whispering battle fates and feeding off fear. A Mayan temple depicts a god of stillness, who freezes sleeping children and enters through breath. A French 17th century medical journal describes La femme écrasante, the crushing woman, a common visitor to paralyzed patients. They didn't have the words, but they had the shape and the silence. In recent years, people have begun posting their sleep paralysis experiences online. But something strange is happening. Several users have described seeing the same figure after reading about it first, as if learning about it invites it in. One thread on an obscure forum was deleted after dozens of users reported experiencing paralysis that night, all between 2:40 and 3 a.m. The last comment: if you're reading this now, don't look behind you. The account was deleted. The IP traced back to an inactive address in Prague. The building demolished. Some take it too far. A man in Canada built a rotating alarm system that would wake him every 45 minutes to avoid REM sleep. He lasted 11 days. Then, during a nap, he didn't wake up. He was found frozen in bed, eyes wide open, expression of terror, no signs of struggle, no cause of death, but scratched into the wall behind his bed. It waited. The final connection: the doctor in Germany who studied paralysis cases for decades claimed to find a strange consistency. The same locations, people from entirely different countries reported figures standing in the same spots in their rooms. The doorway, the left corner of the ceiling, the foot of the bed, behind the mirror, on the ceiling directly above them. Across cultures, ages, languages. The shadows stand in the same places, almost like they're following a pattern or a map, maybe. It's not the brain, maybe the brain is the receiver, not the glitch, maybe. What science calls hallucination is actually contact. Sleep paralysis as a crossing point, not imagined, just uninvited. There's comfort in calling it a dream, but the pattern keeps growing. The shapes are becoming familiar, and some people aren't waking up alone anymore.